Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for your attention this evening to what is a long evening and a lot of debate going on. I'm Karen Mitchell. As Jake said, I'm the CFO of ATW Companies, but more importantly, I'm the president of that company that makes magazines here in the state of Rhode Island. I've given you written testimony that I'd appreciate if you would read later this evening, but I'd like to talk about a few points. I'd like to start with the number 10. So we talk about 10 rounds. And yes, ATW Companies, AT Wall Metal Form Magazines makes a lot of magazines starting with 7-round magazines up to 32-round magazines. We have many OEMs we deal with. Some of those firearm magazines are not on our website. 17 is the number of rounds in the 9mm magazine that I personally own. This is a gun. I am not a concealed carry permit holder. This is my personal firearm at my home for home defense. 30 is the number of rounds in my son's AR-15 that he used for sport target shooting. These are lawfully purchased guns. They have what you term as high capacity. Yes, they are more than 10 rounds. What happens to the community if House Bill 5155 is passed? Confiscation. If you read the language in this bill, it would require individuals to either turn them in or sell them. Well, who are you going to sell them to if they're not allowed in this state? Who is an individual going to sell them to? In 120 days. In 120 days, where are companies such as any gun shop, any firing range that owns these guns, that has them for distribution, how are they going to recuperate their investments or any remuneration in these firearms? Let's talk about root cause. Representative Price has often asked people, what are we solving? What is the root cause? Is the root cause the fact that somebody had 10 rounds in a gun? Is the root cause the fact that somebody had 30 rounds in a gun? That is not the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem is the people who are unlawfully getting guns, unlawfully taking them to places that they shouldn't be. It's not the number. It's not 10. It's not 30. Let's talk about some inherent problems in this bill that has been proposed. Not only is there confiscation of firearm magazines that people have lawfully possessed, but you're banning people's livelihood. You're banning manufacturing of these magazines. You're banning distribution. What about the gun shops? What about the firing ranges? Never mind ATW Companies. Look at the industry, what has happened to the industry in Connecticut when this happened. A lot of gun companies left, regardless of whether the fact that they still were allowed to manufacture. Just the process that they had to go through, companies left. We stand here every year and oppose to this bill, and we continue to oppose the bill on many grounds. One of them, we can stand here and say on the grounds of the economy, no, there is no trade-off for anybody's life. But changing the number of rounds a magazine or a gun can hold is not going to change that fact. As we've seen with other tragedies that have occurred that people have talked about, the Boston Marathon bombing, people driving vehicles into buildings, into crowds, tragedies happen, and you have to look to the root cause. Would there be layoffs? Absolutely. Would it be thousands of people? No. We don't hire that many here at AT Wall Company or at our sister company in East Providence. But the Rhode Island gun industry is more than just AT Wall. It is more than metal form. It is gun shops. It is gun ranges. the ripple effect. Somebody said to me, if you brought a kiddie pool in here with water in it and you dropped a penny and you watched the ripple effect from that one change, and it could have very far-reaching impacts. As I said, I ask that you read the written testimony that I've given you. It has a lot of facts. It addresses the issues in the economy. But I also want you to walk away with the thought that this bill does talk about confiscation. And I think that if anything our founding fathers were against, it was that. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Karen. Representative Knight.
Thank you. Can you point specifically where it talks about confiscation in the bill?
If you read the bill at the bottom, it talks about that you have 120 days to either turn them in, to sell them, or to remove them from the state. So if you can't sell them and you can't move them, if you don't have another home in another state that would allow those magazines to be, it turns into confiscation because you cannot lawfully possess them.
Yeah, respectfully, it's not confiscation. It's the law simply says you have 120 days to get rid of this. You know, at some point, sawed-off shotguns were legal, and we made a law that said you had to get rid of them. It wasn't confiscation then. I've heard this argument time and time again with respect to this particular portion of the bill. It's been variously called a confiscation. It's been variously called a taking. It's been always called unconstitutional, and it's not. We're simply taking something that today is legal, and we're contemplating making it illegal. You have to dispose of it in some way, shape, or form. That's all it is. You can get rid of it. You can sell it. You can give it to a friend. It's not confiscation. And I would also ask you, if you heard the previous testimony, switching subjects for a minute, you said that having a high-capacity magazine in a shooter situation, having a magazine limiting to 10 in a shooter situation is not going to save lives, because that process of having to change the magazines, so stopping shooting while you change the magazines to reload is not going to save lives. Did you hear what the gentleman from, I believe it was from the coalition, said before, where there was actually a couple kids in Newtown who managed to escape during a break in the firing to change magazines? Did you hear that?
Yes, I did hear that, and my comment wasn't that it would save lives. My comment was the tragedy would still have occurred whether the shooter had 10 rounds or had more than 10 rounds. I didn't say that the lives wouldn't be saved. That wasn't my comment.
So my point is that there's a crystal clear example where taking time to reload managed to save a couple children's lives, who I'm sure are glad today that happened. And that's my comment on your testimony. I appreciate it.
We're trying to sort out the witness list over here. Any further questions for Karen? Thank you very much.